Good evening and welcome to the June 5th, 2019 legislative session of the Town Board. And I'll officially call the meeting to order. I'll ask everyone to please rise for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'll ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Cole is absent. LaFountain?
Here.
Metzler? Here. Moore is absent. Quinn?
Here. Thank you very much. We're going to move right into communications and announcements. And the first item this evening is something that has been discussed by this board for a number of months. And I'm going to ask Councilwoman Metzler, who is also our liaison to the Penfield courts, to go through and give us an update on the state of the courts and what's going on there. And I think everyone will find this very good and useful information overall. So, Mrs. Metzler.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. And thank you, everyone, for coming this evening to the first ever State of the Town Court address. As the supervisor mentioned, for a couple years now, we've been talking about starting this type of annual remarks, and I've been working with Judge Mully in the Penfield Town Court to come up with some remarks and some information that I think that will be very informative for the public. So we'll start. Okay. I'll give you a little background as to how we thought of starting this type of address. Every year, for those of us who work in the court system, who are part of the judiciary or part of the court system staff, look forward to the State of the Judiciary, which is an address that's given by Chief Judge Janet DeFiore. And every year she gives an address that lays out goals for the courts, things that they've done well, successes, and plans for the future, and giving accolades to certain courts as to successes they've had. So that's what really started us thinking that this would be a good idea for Penfield as well. Now, Penfield Town Court certainly influences our community in many ways. So we chose to title this talk this evening, Our Court, Our Community, a Look at the Numbers and an Eye on the Future. Like other branches of local government, town and village courts are often referred to as the courts closest to the people. In New York State, there are 1,300 town and village courts presided over by 2,200 justices who hear 2 million cases per year and issue over $210 million in fines and fees. In Penfield, our town court is located adjacent to the community center on Baird Road, and our town justices are the Honorable John P. Lomenzo Jr. and the Honorable James P. Mully Jr. Our town justices certainly work hard when they're on the bench, when they have court in session. And Penfield Town Court, like other town and village courts, is a court of limited jurisdiction over civil and criminal matters. What that means is that the court is allowed to hear or permitted to hear or has jurisdiction over regular civil actions and small claims cases seeking up to and including $3,000, recovery of money or chattel property valued up to $3,000. The court also hears landlord-tenant matters and evictions, and also issues money judgments in landlord-tenant matters and other civil matters. And the judgments for landlord-tenant eviction matters, there is no money limit for those. The judges also hear violations of town code with penalties not to exceed $3,000. Those are the jurisdictional limits of the town court. When it comes to criminal cases, the town court hears misdemeanors, violations, and traffic infractions. They also are responsible for felony arraignments for offenses that are alleged to have been committed within the town of Penfield. Many people don't know that the local justice court also has jurisdiction to issue search warrants. It's rare for a local court judge, a town or village judge, to issue a search warrant, but at times it can occur. The judges also, though, frequently review search warrants if a search warrant is used in a case for recovery of property. The Justice Court also has specific jurisdiction over matters such as dangerous dogs under the Agriculture and Markets Law, environmental offenses under our Environmental Conservation Law in New York, as well as able to hear cases and issue decisions regarding persons who are in danger to themselves or others under what is called the Mental Hygiene Law. I took a look at the numbers for 2008 within Penfield Town Court, and here's a pie chart. I offer, though, that this pie chart is quite deceiving because the largest piece of the pie is vehicle and traffic law. And most people think of that as simple traffic infractions, when in fact, it is not, as I'll mention a little bit later. A look at the numbers. This is a breakdown by types of statute, types of law that the town court will hear. Vehicle and traffic law combined has the most number of cases in 2018 between the two judges. And then next is penal law. Penal law offenses are crimes, misdemeanors, and violations allegedly committed within the town of Penfield, and felony arraignments. Civil cases encompass those regular civil cases I was talking about, as well as landlord-tenant matters. The town justices also hear town ordinance cases, where people are alleged to have violated town ordinance, such as a parking violation, a violation of a building safety code, illegal dumping, depositing hazardous matters in water courses, and also peddling without a permit is another type of case under the town ordinance. Those are all cases that were heard in 2018 by our justices. Town law violations as well can be heard by the town court. Criminal procedure law. Criminal procedure law is different than penal law in that the criminal procedure law offenses that will be heard by a town justice and were heard by our town justices are violations of probation, violations of conditional discharges. So when a town judge has issued a decision and ordered someone to be placed on probation or a conditional discharge as a condition of their sentence and they violate it, they come back under a statute within the criminal procedure law for violating that, and the court deals with them accordingly. There are also tax cases that can come before the town and village courts. The tax cases that we often see in Penfield involve highway tax violations, whereby commercial vehicles do not have the proper regulatory permits or stickers on them. They're usually stopped for something different, and it's found that they do not have the proper sticker for their vehicle. Agriculture and Markets Law, I mentioned earlier, was regarding dangerous dogs. Other matters that the town court heard in 2018 under Agriculture and Markets Law included harboring unlicensed dogs and also unleashed dogs. Under the Environmental Conservation Law, the town justices in 2018 heard a variety of matters, including hunting or fishing license violations, wildlife management violations, pollution or littering, or disposal or carrying of noxious chemicals. Those were all cases heard in Penfield Town Court in 2018. There are New York regulations as well that can be violated. Those in 2018, those cases dealt with dealing and selling firearms, violations of gun dealer regulations. As did the next category, Monroe County law, as well as general business law. Those last three categories all dealt with cases in Penfield Town Court where an individual was arrested and charged with violating the law regarding selling firearms. Just a quick look at some more numbers. The total number of defendants in 2018 in Penfield Town Court, 2585. They came in with a total number of charges amongst them of 3,855. Average charges per defendant, 1.49. I mentioned earlier that the pie chart was a little deceiving with respect to how many vehicle and traffic law offenses are heard before the town court. It's deceiving in that vehicle and traffic law offenses are not just traffic tickets. The vehicle and traffic law also includes driving while intoxicated or driving while ability impaired by drugs or a combination of alcohol and drugs. AUOs are aggravated unlicensed operations, where someone has had their license suspended or has another violation that moves them into an aggravated unlicensed category if they are stopped, as well as speeding. So in Penfield Town Court, the justices between them had 66 DWI cases, 86 AUOs, and 176 speeding tickets. I put a quote up there from Judge Mully, which I thought was very informative, and he says that a town justice has a front row seat to highly emotional matters. And this is something that, as I've talked to residents, they're not quite familiar with all that goes on in Penfield Town Justice Court. There's certainly many categories of cases that are heard when people come in, either civil or criminal. They can involve domestic violence, which can include child abuse or attempted child abuse, cases where there's alcoholism, substance abuse, mental health issues, where veterans have been arrested, people with disabilities, young and first-time offenders, and traffic safety issues. And I'll deal with each one of these in detail. And it's important to note that with respect to these cases, many of these cases have both defendants and victims. So as far as emotionally charged matters, Judge Mully is exactly right in that in these cases before the Penfield Justice Court, there are often emotional issues regarding victims of crimes, as well as the issues surrounding defendants and how they came to be in court in the first place, how they came to be arrested, and what charges they are alleged to have, or offenses they have alleged to have committed. It's difficult to come up with numbers as to how many cases involve each of these categories. Why it's difficult, as we look through the statistics, is that many cases involve more than one of these categories. You can have a domestic violence case that also has mental health issues, a veteran who's before you in court who has an alcoholism problem or has mental health issues. Disabilities, you can have a defendant with a disability that needs to be accommodated in court, but also may be the reason for them offending in the first place. So many of these are coexisting categories within the cases that are heard before Penfield Town Court. Also on that list are young and first-time offenders. Certainly, being the court closest to the people, it's often the court that people appear before first, hopefully last, but not always. We do have in Penfield Town Court, there are many young offenders. Recently, you may be aware that the Raise the Age statute came into effect last year, which provides that as of October 1st of 2018, 16-year-olds are no longer charged as adults. They would have been in Penfield Town Court up until August 1st of last year, so they are included in the majority of these statistics. This year, The law is a phased-in law, so on October 1st of 2019, 17-year-olds will no longer be charged as adults, but they will be charged as adults up until October. So the town court is still going to see these young first-time offenders. Sometimes first-time offenders are not young, and there are certainly many factors that go into adjudicating a case involving a first-time offender. We've also included traffic safety and dangers on the road because this does involve traffic tickets quite often. The town court is the court that also sees cases involving things like road rage, distracted driving, and other issues that we deal with as a society that can have some real serious implications on the road. We included that there are treatment court referrals, on average 1 per week from the local court, from the Penfield Town Court. Treatment courts are at the county level, but the law now provides for referrals from local courts to the various treatment courts, which can include Veterans Court, Mental Health Court. Our judges see their share of domestic violence, and it could play out in terms of crime. It can also play out in civil matters, such as landlord-tenant matters, where you have someone facing an eviction and has domestic violence within their household. It's important to note that town and village justices comprise the largest core of New York judicial officials who are potentially on call 24 hours a day to arraign criminal charges and issue orders of protection or enter certain emergency orders when family court is not in session. In cases involving domestic violence, town and village justices have the jurisdiction to issue temporary orders of protection during off hours. We mentioned earlier victims of crimes and victims of domestic violence. Orders of protection are issued by town judges for those types of crimes, but also for other types of crimes, thefts, attempted child abuse. There are a wide range of jurisdiction that the town judge has with respect to issuing an order of protection in a matter, be it a temporary or a permanent order of protection. In 2018, our town judges issued 49 orders of protection. And those orders of protection, as we looked at the data, involved many Penfield residents, involved many Penfield families that were having issues in their home with domestic violence, substance abuse. With respect to alcoholism and alcohol-related offenses, it's not just DWIs. Alcohol plays a role in the commission of other types of offenses, domestic violence, other types of theft offenses. And one area that the town judges are seeing a lot of in Penfield Town Court. Penfield Town Court is like the other courts at the local level and at the county and supreme level. We are in the midst of an opioid crisis in our community, and Penfield is not immune. On any given docket, there will be a case in Penfield Town Court that has some factor involving drug addiction, opioid, heroin, be it possession or be it the reason why the person is alleged to have committed the crime in the first place. There's just some numbers here that are interesting to peruse with respect to the opioid epidemic nationally. But perhaps more shocking or more alarming or more concerning is, with respect to Penfield not being immune to the opioid crisis, Monroe County experienced a 145% increase in overdose deaths from 69 in 2015 to 169 in 2016. They continued to rise in 2017, resulting in 220 deaths, and within the first 6 months of 2018 alone, there were 566 reported overdoses, 85 of which were fatal. And that information comes from Judge John DeMarco. He's the supervising judge of the treatment courts in Rochester, and he is on the front lines of the opioid crisis as we speak. I mentioned mental health coming into play with respect to why people are alleged to have committed offenses, but also the judges have to ascertain from time to time whether someone is competent to go forward with their case, whether they need to be assessed by a professional before going forward with their case. The town court also sees veterans before them. Veterans alleged to have committed crimes because of some of the issues we've already talked about, particularly substance abuse, alcoholism, and with respect to mental illness, PTSD. There is a veterans court that the town justices are able to refer cases to as well, but also all these types of treatment courts can also have the ability to be utilized within the town court. For instance, if it's a case that is not quite eligible or doesn't look like it'd be the type of case that should be referred directly to a treatment court, there are certainly tools that our town judges will use with respect to the cases before them, when appropriate, to address issues either in sentencing or during the pendency of a case for a defendant. We mentioned disabilities earlier, and we put up this graphic to show that many of the disabilities that come before a court are not visible. And we have people who are in our community who are having difficulty functioning and end up before a court of law because of a mental or intellectual disability they may have that is playing a role in their alleged criminal behavior, or their circumstance that led them to come to court for a civil matter, such as a landlord-tenant matter or an eviction. We mentioned first-time offenders. It's very common for first-time offenders, as I indicated, to have their first day in court be in a town court. First-time offenders are a real opportunity for our judges to exercise their discretion and their jurisdiction to create sentences whereby, hopefully, these first-time offenders do not become second-time offenders. Because as the image there depicts, one offense, one conviction on your record can have some real dramatic effects for you. So the first-time offenders that are coming into the justice court, they're treated very seriously and looked at with respect to ensuring or hoping that they do not re-offend. They are also often good candidates for the treatment courts if they are a first-time offender and they're coming into court and indicating that they have an issue with substance abuse, alcoholism, mental illness, or they're a veteran. We're going to talk a little bit about the makeup of town court and the court system. Penfield Town Court is part of what is called the New York State's Unified Court System. It shares a common goal with the state courts, which include the County Supreme, the Court of Claims, the Appellate Divisions, and the Court of Appeals. Judge DeFiore, the Chief Judge, in her address in 2018, noted that our overarching goal is simple, and it goes to the very heart of our constitutional obligation to fairly and promptly adjudicate every case that comes before us. But town and village courts are different. Penfield Town Court, as well as other town and village courts, is different than the state courts in that Penfield Town Court is operated and funded by the town of Penfield. In the 2019 adopted budget for the town of Penfield, the municipal court allocation was $183,406. Talking a little bit more about money, the town judges, in their capacity, issue fines, surcharges, and fees on most cases, criminal and civil. These are the 2018 statistics for assessed fees, not collected. Fines and surcharges in criminal matters were over $237,000. Civil fees were $2,705 for a grand total of $240,372.50. Now, one might say, well, that's great because that's much more than the budget allocated for the town court. But what we must remember is that the majority of the money for the fees, the fines, the surcharges, and fees, do not stay within the town of Penfield. There is split between the county, and most goes to New York State. Included in those fees, we pulled out the statistics for DWI, fines and surcharges, aggravated unlicensed operation surcharges, as well as speeding tickets. The budget for the town of Penfield's town court includes a lot of the facility needs, staffing needs, but there's always a need for more dollars, and our judges have been very creative in searching out other means by which to supplement the budget line for the municipal court. Most notably, Judge Mully has done an impressive job in the last several years of seeking out state dollars from a program that's called the Justice Court Assistance Program. It's called JCAP funding. Since 2012, $70,000 have come from New York State in the form of equipment, paying for equipment, since 2012. This has allowed for courtroom upgrades, as well as clerk's office upgrades that are listed there. This has greatly helped the bottom line with respect to the town budget in the municipal court category, in that each year the court, through the efforts of Judge Mully, have been able to secure this funding for much needed equipment and upgrades. Our town justices are also hard at work beyond the bench. They are out in the community educating the public. They participate in the Monroe County Sheriff's Office Senior Citizens Police Academy. They are always willing to go and speak with our community civic groups, have school group tours, presentations to government classes in high schools, the Boy Scouts and the Girl Scouts, as well as jurors. When jurors are in the Penfield Town Justice Court, they are also given some education by the judges with respect to what's going on with that particular case and with the court in general. So our town judges do a great job of being out in the community and working with community groups and students. In addition, there's a lot of judicial networking and education that is done within the Justice Court and by the judges. Judge Mully is very active in the Monroe County Magistrates Association. I've had the pleasure of attending their meetings on occasion with Judge Mully as liaison to the town court. They're very informative, very collaborative. with respect to continuing legal education, having legal updates on case law and changes in procedure that affect the justice courts and the cases before them, as well as recent criminal law reform and legislative proposals. The town judges and through the Magistrates Association are very on top of any proposed changes in legislation that might affect the cases or the procedures within town court, as well as some recent criminal law reform, criminal justice reform at the state level. And Judge Mully, I will note, has spearheaded the legal education and the updates, the legal updates that are given to the Monroe County Magistrates Association. He's taken the lead on that and is regarded very highly with respect to the work that he does, making sure that his peers are up to date on all the law and changes in the law. Judge Mully has also been active most recently in May. He was asked by the administrative judge, Craig Doran, to be the town and village judge representative at a very interesting presentation at the Hall of Justice, sponsored by the County Bar Association, called Off the Record, Media and the Courts. And Judge Mully was part of that, educating the media who appear in court frequently, including Penfield Town Court, who come to court to report on cases. They had a panel of judges, including Judge Mully, who talked about issues surrounding access to the courts by the media. But he also took the opportunity to educate the media on local courts and the procedures and processes and how cases are handled at the justice court level. We titled this presentation, "A Look at the Numbers and an Eye to the Future." So what lies ahead for Penfield Town Court? The court is looking ahead to long-term planning for court maintenance and upgrades, setting goals and benchmarks, both short and long-term, aggressively continuing to seek those JCAP funds on an annual basis based upon the goals and priorities that the town court may have with respect to facilities and types of equipment that can be funded by those JCAP funds. The Justice Court, particularly Judge Mully, will continue relationships with the Office of Court Administration locally and in Albany to maximize access to state-issued equipment, staff education, and assistance. Most notably here, our town court staff just acquired, free of charge to the town, in the town court, some additional computer equipment that they are going to be able to use and upgrade within the court clerk's office as well as the chambers. It's very important to improve technology in the courtroom. Technology keeps changing, and the use of technology in the courtroom can be very beneficial when it comes to jurors and presenting cases to the judge. Specifically, the town court will be looking to upgrade to technology that enables law enforcement officer body camera videos to be shown, electronic projection of evidence, such as on a screen or a smartboard, projection of jury instructions so that the jurors can read along while the judge is charging them, as well as advanced technology at the bench and at the clerk station within the courtroom. We've had a lot of discussion about this, and this is a real important topic to facilitate efficiency and a prompt disposition of cases. The court dockets can be quite long on some nights, and the more technology that can be assisting the judge and the clerk in the courtroom, the better. Technology at the bench and at the clerk station can also enable the judge and the clerk to do research if they need to pull up forms, to print out forms and print out information for people who are in court, for instance, their next court date. But it also can be used for very sensitive matters such as orders of protection, to make sure that orders of protection that are issued from the bench are promptly signed and recorded. Currently, discussions are being had and plans are being made for website enhancements to the portion of the town court website that is on the town website. These enhancements will be designed to coincide with Town of Penfield upgrades that, as I mentioned, are in progress. Certainly by improving the website, we will be able to continue our tradition of transparency while also enabling the public to access more information regarding the town court in the form of forms, forms that they can fill out for cases whereby they do not need a lawyer, such as small claims and landlord-tenant matters. So the Town Justice Court is certainly committed to facilitating for our residents and for users of the court to gain information on their cases and on information in general. Technology upgrades are not new to just Penfield Town Court. Across the state, there is a push coming from the chief judge all the way down with respect to ensuring that the courtrooms throughout New York State, including in the town courts, are state-of-the-art, are up-to-date, and have the ability to facilitate the prompt disposition of cases. She said in her 2019 address this year, Judge DeFiore, equipping our courtrooms with the latest technology so that judges, lawyers, litigants, jurors, and members of the public can fully engage in courtroom proceedings is one of the most visible ways in which the court system can demonstrate its commitment to excellence in the delivery of justice. And certainly, the more efficient that cases can be resolved, then certainly that is helpful for those who come before the court, as well as the judges, the attorneys, law enforcement, who have other jobs besides coming to court. So we are certainly looking forward to enhancing what is already in the court with respect to technology. Finally, we've talked a lot about this evening, I've talked a lot about the different types of treatment courts, community, and Judge DeFiore also mentioned, and this will be my final comment, that indeed the delivery of justice must keep pace with the needs of our modern society if we are to maintain public trust in the rule of law and the people's confidence that our courts remain, in the words of our first president, that is not Daniel Penfield, the firmest pillar of good government. And with respect to the delivery of justice, our justices in town court are very mindful of the issues that present themselves in our community, that affect our quality of life, that affect our health and safety of our families, and certainly any types of upgrades and improvements and goals that the Justice Court has is to that end, to ensuring public safety, ensuring that our quality of life in Penfield remains what it is. And on that note, I will thank you all for watching and take it over to Tony.
All right. Thank you very much, Paula. I appreciate it. I would just ask if there's any of the board members that have any comments, or town attorney have any comments on the presentation.
Just briefly, I want to thank you, Paula, for the presentation this evening. I think it's extremely helpful for town residents to have a better understanding of the town courts. I would probably say that most residents probably know their experience with the town court as traffic court, or where if you have a minor traffic violation, that's where you end up going. But I think that just what you showed, the diversity of the cases and the work that Justices Mully and Lomenzo do, I think is significant. So thank you for that. The other thing I do want to mention as a town board member with no legal background whatsoever, over the last 10 years, you certainly have really been active in your role as liaison with the courts here in town, and I think that you've been extremely helpful in bringing relaying information from the courts back to the town board, certainly where we've been able to reprioritize or prioritize needs, whether it's finances or staffing resources to the courts. You've been very instrumental in helping us kind of navigate some of those waters, as well as securing and working with Justice Mully and receiving and securing some of those other grants. So thank you very much for all of the work that you've done, and certainly look forward to the state of the courts here in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, my pleasure.
Thank you. Appreciate it. We'll continue on with communications, and I'll recognize Councilman Quinn to continue on with that. Give Councilwoman Metzler an opportunity to get back for her next items.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. Good evening, everyone. Just a few announcements. On Saturday, June 8th, the Penfield Trails Committee will host a free guided hike at the Webster Arboretum beginning at 9 a.m. Fellow hikers will explore this unique garden of natural beauty in a park-like setting. Meet at Kent Park, 1700 Schlegel Road. Look for the hike signs. Participants are asked to pre-register by calling Penfield Recreation at 340-8655, option 6. Second, beginning this month, kids can take an educational farm walk throughout Rothfuss Park to learn about the tools, animals, and farm crops that were once a part of everyday life on this former farm land. Kids can pick up a farm walk map at the green box located near the park's playground and let their adventures begin. June, July, and August will each have a different walk theme. If someone completes all 3 walks and brings their map to the Recreation Department, they will receive a free T-shirt. Rothfuss Park's agricultural history makes it a fun place to explore. If you have any questions, again, call Penfield Recreation at 340-8655. And lastly, on behalf of Councilwoman Linda Cole, her next community chat will be on Tuesday, June 18th from 5:30 to 7 p.m. in the new book area at the Penfield Library, 1985 Baird Road. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councilwoman Metzler.
I have 2 announcements this evening. The town of Penfield will hold the annual food truck and music event at the Penfield Amphitheater and Kiwanis Stage this Friday, June 7th, from 4 to 8:30 p.m. This annual event will kick off Penfield's summer 2019 amphitheater season and is sure to be fun for the whole family. This event features several local food trucks and musical performances by students of the Penfield School District. Bring your own lawn chair and an appetite to Veterans Memorial Park for a wonderful evening. Also, the 2019 concert series will feature concerts of different genres each Tuesday, June through August, beginning June 11th with Tegan and the Tweeds. All concerts will begin at 6:30 p.m. The full schedule for the season can be found at www.penfieldrec.org. Penfield Amphitheater and Kiwanis Stage is located in Veterans Memorial Park behind Penfield Town Hall at 3100 Atlantic Avenue, Penfield. Please bring your own lawn chair or blanket to sit on. For more information, please call 340-8655. That's all I have for this evening.
Great. Thank you very much. We'll move on to public participation. There are 2 opportunities to address the board on any matter. You can do that if you're here in the audience. You can call in at 340-8771. You can also log on at penfield.org. I'll ask our clerk, has anyone signed up to speak this evening?
I have not.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to address the board on any matter at this time? Again, there is another opportunity at the end of the agenda as well. Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to additions and deletions to the agenda. Does the board have any additions or deletions to the agenda this evening?
No.
Again, seeing none, we'll move on to approval of minutes. We have the May 1st, 2019 minutes before us. I would entertain a motion of approval for those minutes.
I'll move.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. Are there any discussion or comments regarding those minutes?
No.
Seeing none, I'd ask for a roll call vote.
LaFountain,
Aye.
Metzler,
Aye.
Quinn.
Aye.
3 ayes.
Great. Thank you very much. Petitions. Has the town board, town attorney, or the town clerk received any petitions since our last get-together?
No.
Okay, seeing none, then we'll move on to resolution by function. We'll start with law and finance, please.
Granting a conditional use permit to allow a restaurant with outdoor dining and outdoor music at 1300 Empire Boulevard.
So moved.
Second.
Whereas an application has been received by the Penfield Town Board for the issuance of a conditional use permit pursuant to Chapter 250-5.91E of the code to allow a restaurant with outdoor dining and outdoor music at 1300 Empire Boulevard, located in the LaSalle's Landing Development Zoning District. Now therefore be it resolved that the Penfield Town Board is best suited to act as lead agency within the meaning of the State Environmental Quality Review Act, SEQR, and did designate itself as lead agency pursuant to SEQR. And be it further resolved that the applicant's request for a conditional use permit to allow a restaurant with outdoor dining and outdoor music at 1300 Empire Boulevard is hereby granted, subject to the following conditions. These conditions are consistent with other businesses in the LaSalle Landing Development Zoning District. Thank you.
And thank you, Mr. Quinn. Further discussion by the board? See no further discussion, I'd ask for a roll call vote, please.
LaFountain,
Aye.
Metzler,
Aye.
Quinn.
Aye.
3 ayes. Budget transfer and budget amendment, Building Department.
So moved.
Second.
Whereas the building department head requires an increase in the departmental budget for the purchase of Motorola portable radios, and whereas the town board desires to have an up-to-date budget in relation to current income and expenditures. Now be it resolved that the following 2009 budget transfer and budget amendment be approved. From contingency, amount $7,763 to building and other equipment, in the amount $7,763. From revenue vacant property fees, $9,400 to appropriation building and other equipment, $9,400. Thank you.
Thank you. Discussion? See no further discussion, roll call vote, please.
LaFountain,
Aye.
Metzler,
Aye.
Quinn.
Aye.
3 ayes. 2019 budget amendments in general fund for donations to recreation.
So moved.
Second.
Whereas the Recreation Department received the following donations for senior programs in months of January through May of 2019 totaling $1,892. And whereas the town board desires to have an up-to-date budget in relation to current appropriations and revenues, be it resolved that the following 2019 budget amendments be approved. From revenue amount $1,692 to appropriations programs for the aging, DEER, $1,692. From revenue other programs, $200 to appropriations senior programs, $200. Thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion?
No.
Again, seeing none, roll call vote, please.
LaFountain,
Aye.
Metzler,
Aye.
Quinn.
Aye.
3 ayes. Budget amendment from the library restricted fund balance.
So moved.
Second.
A final budget amendment for the evening. Whereas at their May meeting, the library board approved the use of restricted fund balance totaling $20,000 for upgrades to the library network. And whereas the town board approves the total of $20,000 be appropriated from the library restricted fund balance. Now therefore be it resolved that the library budget be amended as follows. From revenue, appropriated reserve funds, $20,000, to appropriations equipment, $20,000. Thank you.
Thank you. Discussion? Seeing no discussion, roll call vote, please.
LaFountain,
Aye.
Metzler,
Aye.
Quinn.
Aye.
3 ayes. Authorization to maintain properties and assess the charges to the 2020 property tax bills.
So moved.
Second.
Whereas on December 16th, 2015, the town board of the town of Penfield adopted a resolution to enact local law number 3 of 2015, entitled A Local Law to Provide for the Codification of the Local Laws, Ordinances, and Certain Resolutions of the Town of Penfield into a municipal code to be designated the Code of the Town of Penfield. And whereas the purpose of the Code of the Town of Penfield includes, among other things, to provide for the safety, health protection, and general welfare of persons and property in the Town of Penfield by requiring the maintenance of all such properties within the town. And whereas the property owners listed on this resolution have failed to maintain the subject properties in accordance with the applicable code requirements, which is resulting in concerns for the safety, health protection, and general welfare of surrounding persons and properties. And whereas the town staff has continually requested the maintenance of the subject properties by the owners thereof with no result. Now therefore be it resolved that the town board of the town of Penfield hereby authorizes the building code compliance inspector to have the properties appropriately maintained. And be it further resolved that the town board further authorizes that the cost of said maintenance and any necessary subsequent maintenance during the 2019 season also be charged to the 2020 property tax bill for the subject properties. Thank you.
Thank you. Discussion. I'd like to just note that there are 20 different properties that fall in this category where work needs to be done. Seeing no further discussion, a roll call vote, please.
LaFountain.
Aye.
Metzler.
Aye.
Quinn.
Aye.
3 ayes. Authorization for Barton and LaJudas PC to conduct a sewer capacity study update pursuant to the original study that was completed in 2010.
Moved.
Second.
Whereas the town of Penfield rezoned 360 plus or minus acres along the Route 250 corridor to mixed use subsequent to the recommendation of the town's 2010 comprehensive plan on November 1st, 2017 by Resolution 17T-191. And whereas although this area does not currently have sanitary sewer service, there are 3 sanitary sewer basins in close proximity which could potentially provide service to this area. And whereas these sanitary sewer basins serve many thousands of existing Penfield Sewer District customers whom expect reliable service, prudent planning, and efficient use of sanitary sewer systems which serve their properties. And whereas to adequately identify current and reserve sewer system capacity and meet the above-mentioned expectations of the sewer district customers, the engineering department sought a proposal for an updated sewer capacity study for the 3 sewer basins which can serve this mixed-use zoning area. Whereas Barton and LaJudas completed the first study in 2012 and is the only company that has this sewer flow model and can perform the specific work requested, and whereas the funding for this study shall come from a dedicated engineering department account for this purpose, now therefore be it resolved that the town board, acting as commissioners of the Penfield Consolidated Sanitary Sewer District, and in an effort to provide the ratepayers of said sewer district with most reliable service, prudent planning, and efficient use system possible, does hereby authorize Barton and LaJudas to conduct the studies in an amount not to exceed $15,000 for the updated capacity studies.
Thank you. Discussion.
Just briefly, Mr. Supervisor, I want to thank you for bringing this resolution forward. I know that when we sit at our work sessions, you always want to be mindful of not putting the cart before the horse, and I think it's important in this case, as the mixed-use development district has some applications starting to move forward through the planning board, it's important to take a pause and sort of reevaluate the sewer capacity for that area, considering some of the large-scale applications. Just one question, is there an estimated time frame for when you anticipate the engineering study will be complete?
I think they wanted to do that starting this spring when we have some of our higher flows, and certainly this year with a lot of rain and infiltration and things like that. They'll want to do that. It'll stretch out probably over the next 3 to 4 months, and they'll look by early fall to come back to us with a report out.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Okay, seeing no further discussion on this particular resolution, I'll ask for a roll call vote, please.
LaFountain.
Aye.
Metzler.
Aye.
Quinn.
Aye.
3 ayes. Authorization for supervisor to sign a contract with Labella Associates, DPC, for geotechnical and site design services.
Moved.
Second.
Be it resolved that the supervisor is authorized to sign a contract not to exceed $24,500 for services with Labella Associates to provide construction administration and bidding services for the Box Athletic Field, as well as geotechnical investigation, site design services, construction administration, and bidding services for the future soccer fields at Rothfuss Park. This resolution and the proposal submitted by Labella Associates shall constitute the contract. This agreement is to be reviewed and approved by the town attorney. Be it further resolved, as this agreement is to develop town parkland for recreational purposes, the board hereby authorizes the appropriation of $24,500 for from the town's Recreation Trust Special Revenue Fund as an amendment to the 2019 budget.
Great, thank you. Discussion. So as the board is aware, this will take in or help to kick in that next phase of the development of Rothfuss Park. This is an area that not only looking to expand rectangular fields to meet our growing demand, but also to design the box field that'll go in as part of that, that can be used for both soccer and lacrosse.
Wonderful.
Seeing no further discussion, a roll call vote, please.
LaFountain.
Aye.
Metzler.
Aye.
Quinn.
Aye.
3 ayes. Authorization to post temporary no parking signs.
This is one of my favorite resolutions of the year. Move.
Second.
It means we have less than 1 month to go before our Independence Day celebration. Whereas it is the town of Penfield's responsibility to promote and maintain public safety on roads within the town of Penfield. And whereas pursuant to New York State Vehicle and Traffic Law, Section 1660, the town board is granted the authority to authorize the establishment of traffic control devices on town highways within the town of Penfield. Whereas the town of Penfield wishes to keep the neighborhoods around the town's Independence Day celebration, parade route, and festivities at Harris Whalen Park accessible to emergency vehicles. Now therefore be it resolved that the town board hereby authorizes and establishes that no parking will be established along both and/or one side of all and/or parts of the following streets for the duration of the town's Independence Day celebration, parade, and festivities at Harris Whalen Park. Baird Road, north of Penfield Road, Peachtree Road, Hotchkiss Circle, Wheelock Road, Kenmont Drive, Henderson Drive, Avonmore Way, Hidden Meadow, Hillrise Drive, Lazy Trail, Valley Green Drive, Valley Green Circle, Maple Hill Farm Road, Maple Leaf Circle, Timber Glen Trail, Harris Whalen Park Road. And now therefore be it further resolved that the town board hereby authorizes and directs the Director of Public Works to post said temporary no parking signs along both and/or one side of said streets. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Quinn. Further discussion? See no further discussion, roll call vote, please.
LaFountain.
Aye.
Metzler.
Aye.
Quinn.
Aye.
3 ayes. Authorization for supervisor to sign recreation contracts.
Moved.
Second.
Be it resolved that the town board authorizes the town supervisor to sign the following recreation contracts, amending a resolution submitted as dynamic recording to Alfred St. John, and amending resolution submitted as Young Explosives Corporation for $13,000, increasing it to $13,500.
Okay, thank you. Further discussion? See no further discussion, a roll call vote, please.
LaFountain.
Aye.
Metzler.
Aye.
Quinn.
Aye.
3 ayes.
Right, thank you. This brings us to old business. Is there any old business to come before the board this evening?
No.
Seeing none. Is there any new business to come before the board this evening?
No.
Again, seeing none. This brings us to our second public participation. Again, if you're here in the audience, you can address the board on any matter. You can call in at 340-8771 or log in at penfield.org. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to address the board on any matter? I'd like to recognize Legislator George Hebert from the 15th Legislative District. George represents the northern and western part of Penfield and comes in on a regular basis to stay updated with what's going on in the town and share what's going on with the county. So George, thank you for being here this evening. I know you wanted to see the presentation on state of our courts overall, so thank you for that. Seeing no further information from public and seeing no other business to come before the board, I would like to thank Councilwoman Metzler for, again, that fine presentation as it relates to the state of the courts for 2000 through 2018, and look forward to seeing that report as we continue to move forward. I would say that at this time, with there being no further business, the June 5th, 2019 legislative session of the town board stands adjourned at 8:03 p.m. I'd like to thank everyone that participated. I also like to thank Penfield TV. Have a great evening.